Hello, everybody. My name is Jeff Harris, and I'm Director of Customer Success at Yotascale. And in this demonstration, I'm going to be talking about how you can accelerate your cloud cost optimization. There's a few ways that Yotascale helps with this. A lot of it is about removing roadblocks that you might run into when you're looking at optimization opportunities. So today, I'm specifically going to be talking about right-sizing recommendations. I'm going to be talking about discount recommendations as well, and where we can help with that, as well as anomaly detection and how anomaly detection can help from a cost reduction perspective as well. So here we are again at the Yotascale dashboard, and some of these components actually show up on the dashboard, and that's intentional. We want to be drawing your attention to places that have relevant information or useful information to you. On the dashboard itself, we can see that there's some anomalies that we found here. That's what these alerts represent, as well as just below this dashboard, analytics dashboard, we can see some of the recommendations that are available, both on the utilization savings opportunities here, right sizing in particular, some opportunity, as well as our discount recommendations. And here again, we're looking at Acme Tech, and they are an AWS shop. So we see recommendations for RIs on EC2, RIs on RDS, and even compute savings plans. So to go ahead and get started, where I'd like to begin is actually in the anomaly detection side. On anomaly detection, this is a feature that is to engineering teams so that they can get alerted to anything that's going on from a cost perspective in their infrastructure. With the Yotascale hierarchy, we're actually able to go down to a particular team. So I'll drill down into the reliability team here on the data business unit, and they get the same Yotascale dashboard experience. So I can see here as I log in and I land at my reliability dashboard, we had some anomalies here on this day. As I click this link, this is going to take me over just like it would if I were to click the link from a Slack alert received from Yotascale on this anomaly. And now I'm going to get a little bit more information about what's going on. I can see that the cost for my Redshift service on AWS has increased. And actually, it's even identified that this came from the Hammer application. We see an increase in cost of 121%, about $5,000. And this is on a daily trend, and we can kind of see what that pattern was like here that Yotascale was looking at. Now, this is helpful information. Okay, Redshift cost increase, but that next part of this, looking into the details of what was it that drove that, I can see that there was an RA3 16x large. As I drill into this option here, I get a bit more information. So in this case, it was a single node. We see what the resource ID of that node was. We see what its cost was over time. We see the account region and even some tags that are there. All of this is really in an effort to help the engineering team know what might have happened without them having to go do a bunch of investigation on their own. Now, that may be that they need to do some investigation, but the idea is let's go ahead and drill down as much as possible, present from all the different data sources that Yotascale is got access to, what we can to help identify this. So looking at things like tags, we can see this was a production node. We can see who the owner was. This can help us identify maybe what had happened here on this day. As that engineer, my job's not done. Once I've reviewed this, what I really am looking for is to get a response. These responses are really important because they help the system, Yotascale, learn and adapt to the feedback that it's getting from the engineering team. So I can either come in and say, I need to assign the person on my team who manages Redshift so that they get the notification and come in and respond to it. Or I can actually just go ahead and follow up on it myself if I know what happened. Can reinforce Yotascale and let it know this is an anomaly. Yep, thank you for finding this. Or I can come in and tell us it's not an anomaly. And I can add in a couple of different reasons that would adjust the model in different ways. Either this is too noisy, let's increase the variance of what we're looking for. This one's not applicable. I don't need to be alerted to any Redshift anomalies. Please stop telling me about them. Or this one is not, we knew that we were going ahead and spinning up a new node, but if this happens again, please send me an alert. So those are some of the different ways that you can sort of respond to this, as well as an added comment. Now, those are useful because you can always come back and review these. We often see the central team or even finance reviews what some of the feedback responses are. Finance so that they can update and adjust their model if this is going to be a new Redshift node we have to account for now, or on the central team just to see if there's any sort of trends from the anomalies that are coming in. So let me go ahead and jump over. And the next piece that I want to look at, and this is another way that we can help reduce your costs in AWS, is by looking at the resources that are already out there. Now, the hierarchy comes into play for recommendations as well. So we were doing this attribution of resources, doing this attribution of cost. we want to actually use that when we're presenting recommendations as well. One of the complaints that we'd heard from our customers was that cloud provider recommendations or even recommendations from other third parties are not as intelligent as they would like them to be. And intelligence in this case is let's get it routed to the right place. Let's group resources together in a way that makes sense. So when I'm looking here, I can see my reluctant application has a set of recommendations for right sizing. One of those is these M44X larges. And I say larges because this is not just one instance, this is and we're looking at utilization, the average utilization across that group of resources. Right now, we can see CPU and network. Memory is also a factor in these often. If you have the CloudWatch agent enabled, that's an easy way for us to get it. If not, then there's other ways for us to get that data in here. In this case, we don't have it enabled, but we do get two options of what we can move to. So for an M44X large, I can either upgrade to the new generation, save a little bit of money a month. Maybe this is worth it, but it's probably a pretty safe migration. The other one's a little bit different, right? So we're saying move from the M4 to the R5, go ahead and reduce the amount of CPU that you have, and we can see that there's about a $900 a month savings here. Now, this group of resources also has a couple tags together, so I can see, yep, these are all production resources, and the owner is Maxwell. I can do a quick comparison of the capacities of these resources, right? So I want to understand what's the difference between these. Do I have a different processor? Is that going to impact me? Is the processor architecture the same? So trying to understand a little bit more about what's available in this option. And then again, this feedback mechanism where I can come in and provide some information back to Yotascale, back to the rest of my team. I can say, this is a great recommendation. I'm going to implement this and we're going to have it done in the next 30 days. Alert me if you don't see it by then. Or I can come in and say, no, we're stuck on these M44X larges. There's a really good business reason for it. And although this recommendation looks, we're not going to take it. That would remove the recommendation from my recommendation queue, allowing me to have a focused list of recommendations that have not been evaluated yet. You can always go back and find the recommendations, the hidden queue, but they don't impact your total savings that shows up on the dashboard. So your VP is looking at those, and you feel like you've got a much fresher list of recommendations that are ready to be evaluated for you.
Also analyzing, Andrea speaking, are you also analyzing the type of disk that are used, the size, the tier of the disk, for example, because maybe, let's say in Azure, you have choose SSD premium and you are not make so much IOPS, you can use a different type of disk.
It's a good question. So where the volume is independent of the instance type chosen, we are not looking at that. In the cases where the volume is inherently part of the instance type that you've chosen, we do. So disk read write, disk IOPS, that is taken into account. Yeah, and you can choose that as one of the metrics that you want to optimize for. Yeah.
Okay, and how do you manage not a single instance, but maybe a scale set of instance? In this case, which kind of recommendation are you providing? Because you can have maybe a smaller instance and scale much when you need. Are you analyzing the usage during the time, the week, or maybe you cannot analyze auto scale set?
Yeah, so today we do not look at the auto scale settings. So it is more of the vertical, I believe that's the right one that I'm picking here, vertical scaling and changing the instance type that it's running on as opposed to the auto scale settings. Good question. All right, I will be quick on this next one. So we're going to go take a look at our discount recommendation options. And in particular, what I'd like to show today is our compute savings plan purchase recommendation. So, these are readily from cloud providers. They will tell you how much you should commit, but they really leave it at that. And it's kind of a black box. So what we wanted to do, and the problem we wanted to solve was, let's help you compare options. Let's help you make the business case, go show what the trade-offs are so that you can move faster in making a purchase decision. What we hear often is that, they just don't know which one to pick. We don't know the cost benefit. It's hard to get to that information. So what we can do is present multiple options and show you the trade-offs. How much savings can you get based on a 1-year no upfront commitment for a certain dollar amount per hour? Now, this is sort of based on default settings. If I want to compare something completely different, I can come in and set, what's the look back period I want to see? Is it 30 days? Was there a significant change recently? And I just want to look at the last 7 days. What's the commitment term I'm comfortable with? 1, 3 years, payment option, right? So all of these options are quickly set. We calculate what the optimal dollar amount is to commit based on that historic data set, right? So we'll tell you, if you were to have the same exact pattern again, this is the number you want to commit to, you'll get the best deal. You as the human know that that might not be realistic, that you may want to be a little more conservative. So I can come in and say, I'm willing to commit just $1,000. Now I see where that line drops in. And as I add this option, this will actually call off and calculate using a Yotascale Lambda function that we call, and it's going to calculate the potential savings. And now I'm going to get an idea of, okay, if I choose this 3-year partial upfront at $1,000 an hour, what's my savings opportunity here? I can now take this information and export this and kind of take it to that financial team used in some of those meetings to help make a case and help show what the trade-offs are. And the goal here is to get you to a point where you can make a decision. If you want it, once you're ready to do that, you can go ahead and click, and this actually takes you over to the AWS console where you can go ahead and fill in the information and make the purchase there on the AWS side.
So is there a dashboard or a fancy graph that shows you how much this has saved me?
It is
taking these
being worked on. Yeah. So today, the way that we're doing that is in the customer success side. We have the data. We have not put it into the UI yet. So it is something that I, as a customer success person, I'm very excited to have visualized on the dashboard. But yeah, not quite there yet.
That's fantastic.
Nathan Bennett, I just really wanted to check back real quickly on something that I thought I heard and I may have misheard. Can this integrate with CI/CD pipelines in order to check whether or not things should be deployed or anything like that?
To check would that mean like preventing it from being deployed? And what does that mean exactly? Okay, so no, we do not. We are not causing any friction, and we're really only doing some analytics, right? So it's coming in over the top and looking at things and looking at metadata. Where we integrate somewhat with the CI/CD pipeline is we can, if you're tagging things through your CI/CD pipeline, we can then show you the cost of what that deployment was. We can show you the cost of what that version of the application was, right? So it's a combined integration where the CI/CD pipeline needs to be tagging a set of resources in a certain way, and we can then visualize and break that down for you.
But you would show it after it's been deployed.
Correct. Yeah, we are not doing the, this is how much it's going to cost you in the future. Something interesting. We've had some requests for that, but not there today.
Thank you.
Another follow-up question to this, almost Mika Stein here. So your product is completely passive. I cannot right size from within the dashboard. It will not stop any deployments. Is there an idea maybe to change that in the future where I see already like I need to right size this instant, right? From a workflow, it might be nice if I could do it right from there.
Yeah, I think from a vision perspective, absolutely. Where we get friction on that is the security team. They don't like that idea. Initially, a lot of customers ask that question. And then when we have the discussion with them, it turns out that, yeah, maybe we can do that for our dev instances, but then the value is kind of diminished. And so it's, I think the culture is not quite caught up with the desire to have more automation around that. Yeah.
I ran infrastructure right before. There's a lot of liability. Also, like in production, if a right size and your system goes down, I mean, you know your CI/CD and all your stuff really, really well. So I think the idea for us is that we can generate a Terraform script or whatever that gets you very, very close. But ultimately, you should push the red button, at least where things are today.
You don't want to be responsible if you set some wrong metrics and completely destroy the production data.
Well, that, or if there is a miscommunication, like, because I would have to know, let's say it's a stateful workload, and what is your latency expectation, and how long can you be down? Like, what do I do with the data? I mean, these are all very complicated questions that can be automated, but then, slight change here or there can cause you a lot of trouble.
Can you do things like location-based cost optimization, like certain regions charge different rates, and sometimes like the performance is a good trade-off for that, like especially for just cold storage or warm storage. What about something like that?
Yeah, it's a great point. It's not there today. I think the source of data would have to be something where we have a sense of the availability zones and regions to say, how have you been performing? Because you have to present your cost performance trade-off. There's a reason why a region is not as good as, so there's a price performance ratio.
Yeah.
And I think and then that data is increasingly becoming available and something we can start piping into our recommendations down the road.